All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is our last show before the Lions play a football game.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's good, everybody? Matt Derry with you. It is a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today is Wednesday, July 30th into Thursday, July 31st. You heard me correctly in the cold open. The Detroit Lions will play a football game, albeit it's fake, albeit it's exhibition, albeit it's preseason, whatever you want to call it. But the Detroit Lions will be on your television sets, on your radios, tomorrow evening in beautiful Canton, Ohio, for the 2025 Hall of Fame game. Lions, LA Chargers, Campbell versus Harbaugh, Goff versus, never mind. You know what I'm trying to say. I don't know how to feel about this because I can't stand the preseason, but we're all dying to see the fellas out on the field, and that's exactly what we're going to get tomorrow night. We will preview what I'm kind of looking for, some guys I want to watch, some guys we know won't play. All of that coming up momentarily here on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions. Thanks for making us your first listen. Thank you for checking us out wherever you get your podcasts, and that includes on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel, so please subscribe and check us out there. If you want to be our call of the day, we will do one Friday. I was going to do one today. We got Sam Monson coming up from 33rd Team and the Check the Mic podcast with Steve Palazzolo and Sam. I'm going to wait until Friday. So hit us up after the game tomorrow at speakpipe.com/Derry podcast page, and we will play the best call of the day, best call as our call of the day on our Friday edition of Locked On Lions. So everybody's having a great week. Yeah, we're going to get preseason football up and running tomorrow night. Lions play, of course, an extra preseason game because they're a part of the Hall of Fame game, 8 o'clock tomorrow night on NBC. The minute the game ends, I'll record a Thursday pod, and we'll have a show for you when you wake up Friday morning talking about Thursday night's game. We know this, all right? The Lions have said it. Dan Campbell has said it. Many of the regulars and the starters are not going to play in this game. All right. You're not going to see Jared Goff or Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery or Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jamison Williams. Heck, you're not going to probably see the two tight ends, Brock Wright and Sam Laporta. The Lions starting offensive line as it's constituted right now, left to right, Skipper, Mahogany, Glasgow, Ratledge, Sewell, they're not going to play. We already know Taylor Decker's hurt. Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport. Tyleik Williams is not going to play. DJ Reader. You have to figure that Alex Anzalone, Gaines media poster boy. Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell, Terrion Arnold's got a hamstring injury. DJ Reed and Branch and Kirby Joseph. All those guys are not expected to be out there tomorrow night. So what are we watching? Who are we looking at? First and foremost, the first name that comes to mind of a player that I'm interested in checking out is undrafted free agent Keith Cooper Jr. Now, you're probably going, why is Derry mentioning a guy from Houston that nobody knows, University of Houston? Because he might make the team. I'm hoping somebody flashes from this third string, fourth string, fifth string that can get to the quarterback, and he has had a good camp. He is going to play. We know this. Isaac Tesla, the wide receiver that the Lions moved up to draft in round 3. Local kid, the whole deal. You know he's playing, and I'm interested in watching him and see how he does. You know, there's a theory that he's the replacement for Jamison Williams in a couple of years if, in fact, J-Mo walks and signs a monster deal somewhere else. Because, again, you can't sign everybody, right? With that being said, those are big shoes to fill because J-Mo's having a great camp and is expected to have a breakout year. And, heck, last year, he had 1,000 yards receiving. But Tesla is a guy that is interesting, intriguing, that is going to get, you got to figure a lot of touches, and I think is probably going to have as good a preseason as anybody. The quarterback situation is going to be interesting. All right. Who starts? Is it going to be Kyle Allen, who was picked up in the offseason to push Hendon Hooker, or is Hooker going to get the call? And how's he going to look? Again, the Chargers aren't going to play any of their regulars either. But is Hooker reading defenses better? Is he holding on to the football as long as he did a year ago, or is he getting it out faster now? All right. If something happens, knock on wood, to Jared Goff, either Hooker or Kyle Allen have to go play. You got to try to win. And Hendon now in year 3 is as healthy as he's ever been. And I'll be interested in seeing how he does and how he looks. And just going through the progressions. Look, John Morton, the Lions offensive coordinator, is not going to show anything in this game that is too overly creative or anything that is going to give away any secrets for the regular season. It's going to be a pretty vanilla offense. But how's Hooker handling that is something to keep an eye on and something to watch. I think we're all interested in seeing how he controls everything, for sure. Giovanni Manu is another guy that I have no idea how he will look in game action. So what's he looking like? Is he road grading in the ground game at either left tackle or right tackle or whatever, or wherever they play him? Is he pass blocking well? How's his technique? He's a guy the Lions gambled on last year, and really we haven't heard much from. I'll keep an eye on him as well as a part of this entire situation going on tomorrow night. Again, I'm excited for it. Then probably around halftime, I'll be ready for it to be over. But it's football. For our friends that gamble, our friends at FanDuel say the Lions are 1-point favorites. I don't know how you do that, but hey, you might just keep it interesting tomorrow night. That's for sure. All right. Sam Monson's going to join us coming up next from the 33rd team and his podcast. Check the mic with him and Steve Palazzolo. Those guys were great at PFF for years. We used to have Sam on the show a lot, and we're going to, re-engage with him today. Coming up next, right here on Locked On Lions. And Locked On Lions today brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. Yes, fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat, get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions that we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me and Locked On Lions, we're playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league, all right? I've used Yahoo Fantasy for years, and the great thing about it is the draft day experience is just so smooth, all right? And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all begins August 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. Great to have this guy back on the pod. It has been a while since his days at PFF. Now at the 33rd team, check out his podcast. He and Steve Palazzolo, they got a brand new studio. They got it all going on. The Check the Mic show. Sam Monson, NFL analyst, writer with us here on Locked On Lions today. Sam, great to see you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you back. It's been a while since we've talked, but what's your mindset? What's your outlook on Detroit and where the Lions sit right now as we head into a very exciting Hall of Fame game tomorrow night?
Yeah, I mean, look, Detroit should still be one of the best teams in the NFL. I think that has to be their aim heading into this season. I watched the Netflix quarterback documentary, and obviously Jared Goff was a big part of that, and you were kind of reminded, how it felt like last year was Detroit's year. They were going through the season with these close wins or, pulling it out of the fire. And they all sort of felt or were acting like they were the team of destiny. And then obviously they just have this bad performance against Washington. They turned the ball over a lot, and that allowed, I think, an inferior team to progress further than the Lions should have. And we were kind of robbed of that NFC Championship game that I think everyone was expecting, Detroit against Philadelphia, and really see whether the Lions could put it up to them. And I think you just come away from that just hoping that that wasn't their opportunity, that wasn't their one shot at this, and that they can get back there again. And, I think they've done an amazing job of building a sustainable team and roster that can compete year after year. But this year, I think, will be harder than it was last year because you've got the turnover at coordinator. You've got a couple of spots now that are not as good as they were last season, or maybe have some more question marks between the coaching, offensive line maybe as well. So I think they'll still be incredibly good. I still expect them to be one of the contenders in the NFC. But you do worry a little bit about these couple of areas that are now creeping in.
When you were at PFF, you and I used to talk all the time about grades and just, guys and how they were measured. And Frank Ragnow was one of the top centers in the NFL, if not the best. Obviously, Creed Humphrey, everybody considers number one. But how big of a loss is Ragnow, and how do you think they'll navigate that?
I think he's a huge loss. Ragnow, when he was healthy, was a top 3 center in the NFL, depending on exactly how you want to order them. He's one of the best guys that was out there. So not only do you have the impact of the loss of a guy like Ragnow, also, by the way, a talismanic figure for the team, a very Dan Campbell type of guy. We can all remember him battling through, bad injuries and still being out there playing incredible performances against guys like Vita Vea. I mean, that's incredibly difficult to do. That's the kind of thing, it's Dan Campbell on the field. It's that type of leadership that you're losing, as well as just the quality of player that you're losing. And then it probably has an inflated effect as well, because you were already going to be rolling into the season with, a question mark at least one guard spot. Now you're potentially disrupting 2 spots along the interior, and you're magnifying the risk along that offensive line. Again, I still think it will be a good offensive line, but there's more question marks about it heading into this year than there were a year ago.
What do you know about John Morton? Obviously, kind of, the guys all know him from his days here in Detroit. At least he had 1 year here when he was an assistant under Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson. But the John Gruden tree, getting an opportunity to be OC, how do you like the fit there?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because you've got that connection, you've got that continuity there with the old regime, with the old system with Ben Johnson. We're hearing and seeing some of the differences now. The training camp has started, and you're already starting to kind of hear that I think it's going to be a little bit less prescripted. It's going to be a little bit less Ben Johnson, drawing this all up and almost like a paint by numbers type of offense. And I'm going to feed you what we're doing, and you guys just need to execute it. There's going to be a little bit more freedom, I think, from players to kind of play what they see within games. It's going to be a little bit less directed from the sideline, step by step by step, the way Ben Johnson liked to do it. So I think that's an interesting development for this team, because I think Jared Goff has been very good in that kind of system where he's fed the answers effectively. This is what we're going to be running. This is what you need to make sure you have down. And then as long as I feed you ABC, we're going to be good to go. And Goff's been incredibly good at executing that, whether it's been Sean McVay or whether it's been Ben Johnson. It's going to be interesting to see how this team does with a little bit more player-driven freedom and creativity.
Sam Monson with us from the 33rd team. Check the Mike podcast. Follow Steve and Sam. They do a great job, and they're following. Man, everybody just went over there when they left PFF, and they do great stuff. Another thing about Morton, Gibbs and Montgomery on the field at the same time. Jamison Williams says he loves the route tree Morton's giving him. Is it possible this offense doesn't skip a beat without Ben Johnson, who was arguably the best coordinator in football last year?
Yeah, I mean, it is. They still have a lot of personnel talent. And it's not like Dan Campbell, has no idea what he's doing from an offensive schematic point of view. Like, there's still a lot of brain power left in that building when it comes to offense, and the personnel is still spectacular. Yeah, I think there's absolutely still a chance that this offense picks up the way they left off. Also, as much as Ben Johnson might have sort of done a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of direction from the sideline, what he imparted to them in terms of knowledge, that doesn't leave just because he's gone now. What he was able to do in terms of coaching up these guys and helping them along and imparting football knowledge and wisdom to them, those could be permanent benefits, permanent growth for these guys. So, it might be a different offense. It might change a little bit, but yeah, I think there's absolutely a chance that it's every bit as good as it was.
Everybody's talking about fantasy football. Obviously, we're getting close to draft time and everything else. The Jahmyr Gibbs situation. Do you see a scenario where you and I are talking in November, December, Sam going, he's the best running back in football?
I think he's in that conversation with, dynamic playmakers, explosive guys can put up incredible numbers. We saw that a year ago. I think, I don't know if he's going to have the kind of year that Saquon Barkley did last season. I think that took a very sort of special confluence of factors, incredibly talented running back, dominant offensive line, incredibly good offense top to bottom. Same with Derrick Henry. I think you need a sort of special set of factors to all come together to put together monster numbers like that. But, if he backs up what he did a year ago, I think he's firmly established himself as one of the most dangerous and dynamic playmakers at the position.
We do have football tomorrow night. Are you gonna sit through all of it? I have to.
They're interesting games. I think they're less interesting now, when the NFL largely completely sort of dismisses preseason. It's not quite as fun as it used to be, where you got, a real first look at, your top rookie or an interesting free agent or whatever it is. But there are still fun names that play. Mike Golick Jr. had that tweet about that half of America just discovered Trey Lance is playing for the Chargers because he's getting the start in this game. Yeah. Trey Lance is a fascinating player. Obviously not as fascinating as when he was drafted at the top of the draft, but you're still talking about this guy with incredible tools who's now bouncing around the league, but now goes to a place with Jim Harbaugh as his coach. And there's always interesting players to have a look at. It's just maybe not as interesting as it used to be.
Hendon Hooker will be interesting to watch these 4
absolutely.
games, right? For the Lions. Kyle Allen is in also to kind of push Hooker. I've never been a Kyle Allen fan, but there's a legit backup quarterback competition here. So that's something to watch, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, there's always a couple of stories you can find for any preseason game, even the ones where no starters are going to be seeing the field at all.
More with Sam Monson coming up next. I want to ask him about the defensive side of the ball. We'll get into a little bit about the NFC and the division as well right here on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions. And Locked On Lions today also brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest. Some days you're on the course playing golf or even off of it. You just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. You get to the 15th or 16th tee, you're like, man, I'm almost done. I just don't feel like I've got the energy. And your group, maybe you're going up against some guys that have taken some of your money, whatever it is. You need that transfusion. You get it with 5 Hour Energy. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the beverage cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid through September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots. Do it today. Great to reconnect with our man Sam Monson, now with the 33rd team. Check out the Check the Mic podcast. He and Steve do a fantastic job. All right, on defense, Sam, so the other day the Lions held a scrimmage just to kind of get the regulars up and running, and Aiden Hutchinson was dominant. 3 sacks, and certainly there's some holes on the O-line right now with injuries and everything else, but how about a fully healthy Hutchinson? What would that look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, getting him back 100% healthy is one of the most important factors, I think, for this Lions team heading into this year. I think he would have won Defensive Player of the Year last season if he hadn't gotten hurt. Now, some of that is he was playing like the Defensive Player of the Year. Some of that is he was facing a terrible run of offensive tackles that was sort of artificially propelling him way out in front of the pack. But you're talking about a guy who's capable of that kind of season. And one curious element of this Lions offseason is they didn't really do a whole lot to address, the other side of the pass rush opposite Aiden Hutchinson. So they're as reliant on him for consistent edge rush pressure as they have ever been. And whereas the interior should be very strong and the depth there is fantastic, they're going to need Aiden Hutchinson to bring a ton of pressure this year. So seeing him look like the guy he was before he got hurt, I think is huge.
Marcus Davenport, are you a fan? Because when healthy, can play, but that's just been the biggest question mark, right?
Yeah, it has. And at this point, he sort of feels like defensive line version of Jason Verrett, where, the 49ers for a bunch of years just kept signing Jason Verrett to like a 1-year prove it, no money type of contract, because if he ever stayed healthy, there was a really good cornerback there. And it happened maybe one time, and every other year he kept getting hurt. Davenport, I think, has sort of found himself in the same bucket where, he's signing these short-term, low-money deals now for teams. And yeah, if he ever stays healthy and plays a significant amount of snaps, he's got some juice. He's a big, powerful defensive end that can definitely get some pressure. But at this point, you're not banking on it. At this point, if you do get that season from Davenport, it's a bonus. But I would be very surprised if they were expecting it to happen at this stage.
Do you anticipate, out of the Lions, there were some reports the Lions have been looking into Matthew Judon. Zadarius Smith is still out there and was a Lion a year ago, and really that was just a contractual thing that they let him go, too much money. But do you expect that when we get closer to September 1, that the Lions will grab one of those guys?
Yeah, definitely. Whether it's getting closer there or, we're going to get the round of cuts to come in as well once we get clear of preseason and training camp and stuff. So, yeah, there's absolutely going to be veteran pass rushers on the market. And as you said, with Zadarius Smith, they've already shown that they'll go into that kind of market to address that spot. So, yeah, we always look at teams now and sort of focus in on an area that's missing. It's not necessarily the final roster as we head into the season.
How do you evaluate Terrion Arnold in terms of year one? And then do you expect a huge jump in year two? Do you like the player?
Yeah, I really liked him coming out. I thought he struggled a bit year one, but he was also kind of thrown to the wolves in terms of, you're playing a ton of man coverage, go out there and lock down a receiver. And it's a really difficult thing for a young corner to do. And particularly it's hard, period. But then I think very early on, he obviously got flagged a ton for being overly handsy, overly grabby in coverage. And that kind of changes everything, because all of a sudden you've already got him just trying to survive, just trying to keep his head above water. And then the first couple of weeks, the league basically says, can't play that way, can't do the way you want to, you've got to change how you play. So now he's got to completely relearn what he's trying to do. He's trying to play man coverage, sticky, aggressive man coverage, but he's just been told he can't do it the way he wants to do. So now he's got to relearn everything. And it just felt like he was behind the 8 ball the whole way through the season. But the reason we loved him as a prospect coming out is his movement skills, his ability to mirror in man coverage is incredible. His fluidity of movement is sick. So I would hope that there's a big jump in him this season. I think, last year was a tough situation for him, but I would expect him to bounce back this year.
Sam Monson with us from the 33rd team. All right, you look at the rest of the division: Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago. Obviously, the Vikings had a great year last year, but kind of some strengths and weaknesses of each team, and maybe how do you rank these four going into the season in the NFC North?
Yeah, I mean, I think Detroit should still be the best team in the division. Minnesota is obviously, it's all going to depend on what they get from JJ McCarthy. I think if he's good, it's a great situation. Almost everything around him has been upgraded from that year they had a year ago. The defense should be better. The offensive line was massively overhauled this offseason. And the receiving core was good to begin with. So it's a great situation for him to step into if he can hit the ground running. I think the Vikings will probably be the second best team. Green Bay, they're good. The question is, can they take a step forward and be a great or a real contending team? They weren't able to do that at all last season. And then Chicago, I think, will have bridged the gap to them. They had a really nice offseason with Ben Johnson, with their offensive line overhaul, with the weapons they added in the draft. So I think this has the chance to be the best division in football with 4, good teams in it.
Are you somebody that subscribes to the theory that the Bears are a playoff team?
I think they could be. If I was a betting, man, I would say it's more likely than not they're not, but it's certainly within their range of outcomes. I mean, last season we were big fans of what they did in the offseason, and it didn't all work out. Caleb Williams wasn't great. The offensive line wasn't great. The meshing with the coaching staff didn't really work. So we've already seen the cautionary tale of, getting too excited by that kind of offseason, but it could easily happen. I mean, Caleb Williams, the talent is real. Like that, we didn't see, even in his inconsistency as a rookie, you didn't come out of that going, well, everything we thought he was as a prospect is make-believe, it's fake. He has the talent to make that kind of impact. And the situation around him has been improved in, again, pretty much every area. So yeah, like if that kind of jump happens, they immediately become a team that are to be reckoned with within the division, and would certainly, I think, be challenging for a wild card spot, if not the division crown itself.
Give me a team in the NFC that maybe nobody's talking about, or somebody that you really like. Obviously, Philly's at the top, and they're the Lions, and Commanders certainly got there last year to the NFC Championship game. Is there somebody sneaky that you think can make a run?
I think the Cardinals are a really interesting team this year. Marvin Harrison Jr. was a little bit underwhelming as a rookie, but he's packed on a ton of muscle and could easily see him breaking out in year 2. And if he does, I think that changes a lot with that offense. Their defense had a ton of talent invested in it this offseason between free agency and the draft. And they were already, a feisty, well-coached defense that just didn't have the horses to make the kind of plays that they needed to. If they have those horses now, the Cardinals, I think, could be a sneaky team in the NFC.
Sam, great to see you. Great to catch up. We'll do it again soon. Good luck with everything at the 33rd team. I know it's all going well, and you and Steve are always great to check out on the on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Thanks, brother.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Sam Monson with us from the 33rd team. We'll be with you again tomorrow night following Lions and Chargers.